Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Sorry I'm running a teensy bit late this time. I'm doing better, I'm getting better as time goes on. But I'm doing this in the car outside as per usual, and it is freezing, so I've had to warm the car up a little bit first. And it's just about getting to a decent enough temperature to survive in, let's say. So I think we're going to be all right. And usually the car does get a bit warmer the longer I'm sat in here for. But I've got my peppermint green tea. Turns out peppermint is also really good for chelating iron out of your system. So that's what I'm currently mixing with green tea to make the taste slightly more bearable. But if everyone in the chat could just let me know if you can actually hear me speaking right now and I'm not just talking into the air. And hopefully the connection should be strong enough. Like I said, I am outside. I am a little bit away from the window, but it looks like it's all right. So I am sorry, guys, if it does drop out here and there. But I do believe YouTube does create a backup themselves, to be honest. So it shouldn't be too bad. After the show, usually they end up rendering the gaps that appear and actually make it appear. So we should be all right. So let me just get this in a comfortable position first, and we'll let everybody roll in. And I'm going to pour myself a drink to get started. And I'm sorry if you can hear the fans going at the moment. I will be turning it off soon, along with the engine as well. But for now, I'm getting this car warm. So who have we got in the chat? Who have we got? We've got all for one, one for all. Thanks for being here. Great to see you. You're a new subscriber. I've seen a couple of your comments actually over the past couple of days. Thanks for joining. Jeffrey, good to see you. Amelia, pleasure as always. Wendy, thanks for being here and moderating as per usual. I hope you're ready to do your thing because obviously since I decided to call out the Gnostics for the cringe bullshit artists that they are, they've come in droves to try and accuse me of all sorts of things and attack me in full force. So we don't tolerate that kind of thing here. Only I'm allowed to ridicule the Gnostics, not the other way around. It's my channel. I'll do that if I want to, I suppose. But yeah, guys, mods, be on the lookout. I don't want any silly nonsense today in the chat, if that's okay. But we're gonna have a fun show. We're gonna talk about a few things. What I want to do is mainly just give you guys a bit of a reading from the book and give you a breakdown of some of the things I've been looking at as well for the book, and then we'll have a bit of a chilled Q&A afterwards as well. Nothing major. Just thought I'd check in with you guys and, like I said, just connect, which is something I like to do once a week at least. Yep, that is slightly more bearable with peppermint in it than just straight up green tea. Um, Diane Brown says, I hope you enjoy peppermint better than green tea. I'm anemic, so I better avoid. Absolutely. If you are anemic, do not drink green tea. It is really bad for you guys. I'll say that. It'll make your anemia far worse. But for me, I think it might be saving my life, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Right, so we got Elizabeth Joyce here as well. Excellent, thanks for joining me. If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out Elizabeth's artwork. You can give her a quick Google at E. Joyce artwork, and you can find some of her prints. Go and check them out if you haven't already, guys. Uh, yeah, everything sounds fine. Renee says, leave the heat on. Yeah, like I said, I can probably turn it down a bit now. There we go. So it's not as intense as it was. And this is my wife's fuel I'm wasting here, so I can't keep the engine running for too much longer. But I will definitely wait till my toes get a bit warmer at least. That's all I can say. Make sure. Yeah, my wife's making fun of my accent. Instead of saying make sure, every now and then I say make sure or says instead of says and things like that, you know. I don't know I'm doing it. I apologize if that offends anybody, but the running joke is that my wife, when she gets around her mother, who is from a certain part of England where they have a very broad, thick northern accent, um, she suddenly reverts back to an extremely broad Yorkshire accent when she's around family. So I think she's given a little jibe to me there for slipping back into my own extremely broad northern Lancashire accent. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's my fuel. Yeah, she's clocked on. That's right. That's right. I'm quite used to it. That's it. Right, guys, we've got some familiar faces in. Luke, thanks for being here. I think you're a new one. Um, King's Fables. Who else from the United Kingdom? Well, I couldn't say, but I know I am. We've got MK Ryan in the chat as well. That's a rare occurrence. Thanks for being here. I know you're a busy man. Um, right, so I think that's it. Right, we've got quite a few people in already. 56 already. That was pretty quick. Right, guys. Just before I do a bit of a reading, I'm gonna share with you guys something a little bit of fun. You may know or you may not know that before my YouTube days, I was a bit of a musician. I don't know if I was any good, to be honest, but I like to spin a tune, do a bit of music, a bit of singing, a bit of everything. Um, and in my early days of waking up and coming to Christ and all that type of thing, I wrote and sang this song, which was basically ridiculing the New Age types, the hippie types, the woo woo types, the chakra aligning crystal energy types, the Kundalini energy type guru in the New Age types. You know what I'm saying. And I wrote this song called New Age Hippie. And honestly, guys, I listened back to it, and this song is like eight years old now, maybe something like that when I recorded it. I do not have time to play guitar anymore or make music anymore, being a full-time parent, working full-time as well, and just providing in life in general. You know what it's like. The music dream died a long time ago, is what I can say. I think it died at the same time I realized I wasn't going to be a famous artist as well, because the whole industry is corrupt. But I did spin together a song or two in that time. And I thought, maybe I'll just share it with you guys. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll think it's absolute cringe. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I don't really care. But I think it'll be a bit of fun just to share with you guys anyway. And I actually shared this in the Telegram not that long ago. But it'll fill a couple of minutes. I think it could be a bit of fun while I've got some people in here while we're waiting for for a few more people to rock up. And then I'll do a bit of a book reading for you guys. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and find the song, which is buried somewhere deep in the Telegram group. And then I'll just play it straight from there. I think I found it. I think I may have found it. That was quick. Okay, there we go. What should I do? Should I... Or maybe what I should do is quickly just search my laptop to make sure it's not somewhere on here, because then it'll be a lot more clearer and better. Let me just search everything. Yeah, I haven't really prepared this one, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I just kind of went for it. So, um, but I know a lot of people don't necessarily enjoy my opening "I Want You to Get Together" clip as well, which was a clip, by the way, if you're curious, taken from a song by Saint Germain, who is an acid jazz DJ, artist, musician guy. And he did a song called Rose Rouge, and it's literally a sample of the last 5 seconds of that song. I used to love listening to that album back in my painting days. It was kind of music I could just zone out to and do my thing, you know what I mean? Um, so if you're wondering what that "I Want You to Get Together" is, that's where it comes from. Go check it out if you haven't already. It's a funky tune. And that's it really. I just like the song, but I know some people either love it or hate it. I have got, and people who hate it definitely let me know in the comments all the time that they do hate it. It's a regular weekly occurrence. But some people love it. Some people type "I want you to get together" with love hearts around it and all sorts of nice little pretty pictures. So some people actually like it, that's for sure as well. But I think I found it here, guys. I'm just gonna play it through the laptop and make sure the sound's being shared properly. There, I have to turn on the audio. I'm going to mute my mic. And yeah, enjoy this song, guys. Something I wrote 8 years ago, just for a bit of fun. I might even like hate myself for listening back to this myself, to be honest, because when you're looking back at old Facebook posts you used to make like a decade ago, and you cringe at whatever the hell you were talking about back then. Maybe that's gonna be one of these moments for me, but I hope you enjoy it. So I'm gonna play this song now, guys.
Tell me, what do you see? I see you're after mystery. I bet you're a new age hippie. I could be wrong, it all depends. Do you drop acid with your friends in the hopes of seeing something pretty? How do you like it underground, where the bass is bouncing all around and you're dancing to something trippy? Well, walking home is no fun when eyes are wide and jaws are numb and you got no shades in Sunrise City. Someday you will say that there's only really one way, and you'll know by the names that change while the game remains the same. For shame, I bet you're trying to ascend and consciousness is your best friend. Come on man, you're a new age hippie. I bet you think you're a god, and in the end you'll rise above the thrones of the all high and mighty. Duality's your deity, your mantra is it came from me. You'll yell it loud, proud and haughty. Well, don't you know it's all a lie, and when you do, you can't deny. My, what a pity. Ah, well, someday you will say that there's only really one way. You know when the names change, but the game remains the same. Oh, someday you will say that there's only really one way. Oh, he will be seen clearly in all that has been made, and you'll see.
All right, episode 3, everybody. Here we are at last.
Yeah, I have no idea what that last bit was there. I think that just auto-played some random thing from the Telegram group. But yeah, what did you think? I let it ring out for a minute there at the end for dramatic effect. That's something I wrote years ago. Maybe it needs a middle eighth, a bit more of a better bridge of some kind. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but yeah, there's a bit of fun for you guys. I hope you enjoyed that little ditty. Anyway, let's see what's going on. What I'm gonna do, guys, I'm gonna share with you my book on the screen, and I'm gonna go through a few things on there and show you some chapters, and maybe we'll let you guys decide which chapter you would like me to read that I have completed so far. And we can have a bit of a session there where I'm just gonna read to you in my deep British sultry voice, you know, something maybe if you're just relaxing with a cup of tea, or maybe drifting off to bed if you're somewhere else in a different time zone, maybe you could enjoy it as a bit of an ASMR moment. But other than that, no, I'm just going to read my book to you guys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly get it up. Let's see what's going on. Book. And I'm going to flip the screen to share with you guys now. The screen. There we go. So that's my book. This is the beginning. This is the rough draft. Things I have so far. Now, what you need to focus your attention to is, if I can move that here, is the left side of the screen. Okay? So on the left side of the screen is all the chapters broken down, as you can see, and I will give a bit of a description of what's going on there. I'm going to come back to the chat, and I would like you to tell me which one you would like me to read. So what I have here, I have no preface yet. That's probably something I'm going to write at the end. Section 1 is just an introduction, the foundation. Maybe introduction is a bit boring. I don't think you guys want to listen to that. So I've got the meaning of a name, which describes where we get Nephilim from. I've got man's jealousy and pride, talking about Cain and his fall. I've got heavenly jealousy and pride, talking about the angels and their rebellion. I've got the Jealousy and pride incarnate the Nephilim, how mankind and fallen angels decided to work together to create an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. I've got kings and rulers talking about how the Nephilim took over the antediluvian age. I've got utter corruption, which talks about just how horrible that time would have been to be alive. I've got the flood, and it goes through different sections of the world, different continents, the Americas, North and South. We've got Europe, we've got Africa, we've got Asia, we've got Australia. And basically, this is going through all the flood myths of these regions to prove, yes, there was certainly a huge flood of some kind, well documented by every culture. And then the aftermaths. Then we talk about how the Nephilim possibly came back in this chapter. Second incursion, Nephilim survival, the curse of Canaan, Nimrod, the pillars and the tower, how the knowledge returned after the flood. We got the Nephilim genocide, how obviously Israel killed all the tribes of Canaan, which were the Nephilim remnants. And then chapter 10 is demons, and we understand how we now have disembodied spirits called demons of the Nephilim. So that's the first section. That's pretty much boxed off, to be honest. Maybe I can add a few things more here and there. But all of section 1 is done. That was finished maybe 4 months ago. And I've just been chipping away at section 2 ever since, which is the clown. So in this section, first of all, let me just quickly check you guys can actually hear me. Yep, there we go. I'm not just talking nonsense here. Right, and I think I can turn the engine off now. There we go. So that might sound a bit better for you guys. But yeah, in section 2, it's all about the clown, and we're going to get into now the theory as it is that I've been talking about on my channel for 7 years. And it starts with biblical descriptions of the angels. And it talks about the information we have. Maybe this could be expanded, but it's all the information I can gather from biblical and extra biblical sources that describe what angels looked like, of all types and shapes and sizes. And then chapter 12 is as many descriptions as I can find from biblical sources and extra biblical about what the Nephilim looked like, so that we can say this is biblically grounded. I'm not just pulling this simply from outside sources. And then we go to modern encounters. So this talks about the North American giant skeletons that were found everywhere, and some experiences North American tribes have had with these creatures as well. And then I talk about the Bigfoot and the Wild Man, and how these are also seen and experienced by people in the modern age and the recent history as well. And how these may give us insight into what Nephilim features may actually be. So we've got that as well. Sorry guys, I'm just quickly moving my laptop a bit closer. And then on to chapter 14, I got the origin of the clown, and this is the history of the clown, guys. So we start with Greece and Roman theatre. So Greek and Roman theatre, should I say. Then we talk about Harlequin's demonic roots within the Commedia dell'arte movement, coming out of the collapse of Rome in that era and the rise of jester archetypes and the character of Arlecchino, modelled after the wild man of Europe stereotype. And then we go down to clowns, how they became the new demonic character in the 18th century, and how Joseph Grimaldi popularized it, and how basically how clown evolved from a boring, plain, garb-wearing slave character into the psychedelic monster we have today. And then we talk about Joseph Grimaldi, the father of all clowns, and how he popularized it and how he was given credit for the clown, and when truly it was actually done by Charles Dibdin, a son of a Freemason who took over the theatre of the age. And then we're on to chapter 15, which I've just kind of been working on and I'm really chipping away into. So chapter 15 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subheadings, and I've not expanded the Royal Order of the Jesters yet. So I have nothing here yet for the Royal Order of the Jesters. And I've mapped out the next chapter, which is 16, which will be about how features of a clown represent Nephilim features. So the skin, the hair, the makeup, the nose, the ruffle, the costume, mimes, jesters, and the circus as a whole as symbol for the DMT realm. So that's going to be the next chapter, 16, once I finish off this subheading about the Royal Order of the Jesters. But for now, I could talk about the clowns of the Mystic Shrine. I've got a page and a half there on that so far. Nothing major, because I do believe I'm going to be expanding on them a lot all throughout the book. But I give an introductory insight into how bizarre it is that the Shriners are even obsessed with clowns to begin with here. And I think this needs to be expanded here as well. Needs more, all right. I think that's why I left the gap, actually. I think I left it there because I'm not quite finished with this one before I get on to the jester section. But I will just highlight that in red so I don't forget. Needs more in that gap. So really, realistically, maybe we should read about Freemasons and the circus. And this will talk about the involvement of Freemasonry and secret societies all the way through the creation of the modern circus in into America. Maybe that might be an interesting one. Or then we've got Freemasonry and Lucifer. So this is a chapter I was actually writing last night. This subheading wasn't originally here, Freemasons and Lucifer. I kind of squeezed this in last night because I realized if I'm going to talk about secret societies, such as Charles Dibdin, the one who had deep connections to Freemasonry and the theatre of the 1800s and created the clown, or his son made his son create the clown, should we say? I realized I kind of have to explain why Freemasonry is evil, because I realized that I wrote this assuming people already understand that Freemasons are a mystery religion cult based on Gnostic principles, and veneration of the Nephilim, you know. And I guess people wouldn't have known that just at first glance. So I've kind of gone in to explain here how, okay, so we have evidence from admittance of high-ranking members of Freemasonry throughout history that, yes, they worship Lucifer, and yes, they follow the Gnostic doctrine, basically, in a nutshell. So I've kind of started writing that, but that does need finishing. I think there's more I could say there. So what would you guys prefer? Just as a looking at the chat quickly. But I do think maybe this section here. Sorry guys, it's just gone away from me. Let me get that back quickly. Um Chapter 15. I am thinking Freemasons and the circus ritual might be a good one. I touch on a few things which haven't been mentioned before in here. A lot of history about circuses as well. And the strange connections. Maybe that would be a good one. But let's see what you have to say in the chat, guys. I'm going to bring it up here. Uh, W2F asks, are there actual historic texts which allude to the Nephilim resembling clowns? Yes. I'll say that, yes. In a sense, yes and no. Um, Realistically, they wouldn't have called them clowns or described them that way. That's a modern word. But like I said, I've noted down the biblical descriptions of the Nephilim as well, and there is quite a lot of allusion to them having white skin and fiery golden and/or red hair, and being terrifying to behold. And also it explains that the angels who would have mated with human women were the seraphim angels, which were serpentine in nature. So you have to use your imagination and understand what that would look like together. And I believe it's something akin to a clown. But if you look at sources outside of the Bible, so you look at artwork depictions of different cultures from all over the earth, which are depicting through images their myths and legends of ancient demons and monsters like Medusa, for example, one of the Gorgons, then you can clearly see they are representing something that has clown features. Okay, so it is in artwork made to represent the documents that people read. Do you get what I mean? So that's how you have to. A lot of inferences have to be made, but I do believe the evidence is clear once you lay it out. Um, Someone wants to read chapter 4, Heavenly Jealousy. That's Nancy. Chapter 4 or chapter 9, Sam wants. Okay. And what chapter was that? What's chapter 9? I can't remember. The Aftermath. Okay, well, I can't read all of it because it's a lot of pages. It's like it would take a long time to read all of it. So I'd have to choose a subheading within chapter 9 if you're interested. Maybe I'll just choose at random. Let's have a look what else is going on here. Uh, Clown, 2 hamburger fast food restaurants. Yes. The concept of angels being jealous also confused me. I think it's important to understand what made them jealous because it led to the fall. Yeah, that is true. So heavenly jealousy is an interesting one. Um, it actually all sounds interesting. Throw a dart. Yeah, it comes down to that, doesn't it? Um, Starting to see a clown filter being shared on Facebook. Oh, that's disgusting. Uh, Christy dresses like a clown. Yeah, Christy, I think I've seen your messages and some of your videos briefly. I think I know who you are. Um, I say this politely, but maybe you should seriously consider what I'm saying in my actual work without a lens or preconceived notion of what you feel a clown is to you. Okay. That's all I can really say. I'm trying to be polite here. But I will also agree, I highly doubt it's Jesus who told you to dress like a clown. I'm serious there. Okay, I'm saying that with love here. Okay, I really don't think Jesus told you to dress like a clown. Um, right, guys. So no one really knows. Yeah, no one really knows what they want me to listen to. Jeffrey's saying Paul doesn't get anything yet anyway. YouTube will wait for the initial surge to allow monetization. Watching the ads. That's true. Well, actually, if you do watch ads, that's great. I don't believe I'm allowed to tell you to do this, but I think the trick is clicking on them is where I get the main income from. But if you are a YouTube Premium member, just watching my video gets me paid, which is odd. I don't know how that works exactly, but that's also something apparently. Apparently, there's a whole section in my studio that says premium membership income. I don't understand how that helps YouTube in any way or why they would pay me money, but there we go. That does happen. To be honest, I don't know if watching it live and clicking on the ads does anything for me or just watching the ads, but I will say after 2 days, I discover how much I earned on that day through ad revenue. So it takes 2 days to process and actually show me. But I do think watching the ads, no matter when you watch them, has something to do with my ad revenue. I think it's complicated. I think they made it extremely complicated and unpredictable on purpose. And a lot of it's actually based on something called an RPM or a CPM. I think it's revenue per milli or something like that, or mil. And it basically means per 1,000 views, this is how much you should earn. And that is constantly going up and down. Sometimes, well, it used to be I earn like £2 per 1,000 views. And it varies per video, but then they give me an average, and my average seems to be about £4 per 1,000 views, roughly, give or take. So it's not a huge amount, but those little amounts do add up over time. So it's not nothing, it's money. It is money that helps feed me and my family at the end of the day. So I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. And the big hitters, the mainstream YouTube channels who are getting millions of views, you can only imagine the type of money they're on. It's stupid actually how much money those people are on, because their RPM isn't a measly £4 like me per 1,000 views. They get the premium ads put on their channel who pay like £12 per 1,000 views. And that's like 4 times the amount as me at the end of the day. So sadly, no one wants to put adverts on conspiracy videos. So they're very poor performing, low paying adverts that YouTube would end up putting on them, so that it doesn't equate to a lot of ad revenue. That's how it works, I think. A bit of insight there into how YouTube works for a creator. But it's growing for me. I'm thankful for that, and it is great. And the best way to support any creator really because YouTube do take a third of everything. So if you give a super chat, for example, they take a third of that. Now think about that next time you make a donation, just how much that actually is. It's a lot of money. Okay. The best way to support me would be to become a regular monthly supporter on Patreon, where you donate $5 a month consistently, and stick around, and that will guarantee me that every month I have a guaranteed income, even when YouTube decides to pull the rug out from underneath me and I have to migrate to a different platform or something. And that will always be there as a safety net, and that's really more secure than ad revenue any day of the week. So, and I'm thankful actually for the patrons I do have. I think I have about 50 something now, which is incredible. And I am going to start posting a lot more content on out there more regularly. A lot of my podcast visits I'm going to post on there before they ever come out to the public as well. And I'm going to really make sure I get more content on there for you guys. With the holiday season, I've got a little bit lax because it's been busy and difficult to create new content, but I'm going to start pumping out a lot more on there. But yeah, Patreon's the best way to support me. Or if you're interested and you like what you're about to read today, you can go and support the book by going to the GoFundMe, which the link is in the description. There's a pre-order system on there if you're interested as well. They're all great ways, and again, I'm thankful for all the support I have got, to be honest. It's been amazing. Like I said, I want to give people regular updates on what's going on with the book. So I've showed you where I am currently. I do have this many chapters left. Oh, God, this bloody Mac. Honestly, I'm useless with Macs. I use two fingers to scroll, and it suddenly flips everything all away from me. But yeah, like I said, I am currently working my way to the end of chapter 15 now. Onto chapter 6. I reckon chapter 16 will be relatively quick, because I already know I've said all this 100 times in every podcast I've ever been on, and I don't think that will take too long to write, to be honest. And chapter 17 about the Hat Man and the Ringmaster, I think will be relatively short. Just a quick one there to give the concept of the ringleader and the Hat Man, and what people experience and how people get in touch with the Hat Man. How there's a religion dedicated to the guy as well now through people who take Benadryl, which is so odd. And then we'll talk about sacred clowning briefly in chapter 18, because I will be covering a lot of the tribes who have their sacred clowns, like the Heyoka as a prime example, in the following section 3, which will be about all the cultural representations on every continent of ancestor spirit worship and the costumes they wear and how they all have clown-like features. We're going through each continent with each chapter, so European folk traditions, African folk traditions, Indic folk traditions, Asian folk traditions, Australian folk traditions, and Oceanic, Austro-Asia as it's known. We're going through all the continents and going through all the different representations of demons basically, and how they all have clown-like features, and just to justify why our version is also the same thing. And then section 4 is going to be about clown murderers and perverts, the 2016 clown sightings, the fear of clowns, the multicolored collective. We all know who they are, don't we? Wink, wink. I've already got quite a lot written for that one, as you can see. Film and TV representations, the music industry, and then section 5 will just be a conclusion. I might not even call it section 5. I might just leave it as 4 sections and slap a conclusion on the end. I don't think it necessarily has to be broken up like this. So it's on its way, and again, the section I've been writing is quite reference heavy right now. Like I said, I've been writing chapter 15, which is secret societies, and chapter 14, which is the origins and history of the clown. And I've referenced so much, it's been ridiculous, okay? And it's, you can see it all here, at the bottom here, reading so many different books, trying to get the facts straight, trying to get the histories right, because it's so hard when you start go back in time to actually trace lineages correctly, because it's all messed up and the documents weren't very well maintained, and it's taken a long time to write chapter 14 and chapter 15. I'm not gonna lie. So I think today I will share with you though Freemasons and the circus, maybe no Freemasons and the circus ritual, which is going to give you a history of, well, the circus, and the craft's involvement in forming it to be what it is today. So I think I'll read this to you. It's quite a few pages. It'll take maybe, I don't know. I don't know. How long do you reckon it'll take? I reckon it'll take maybe 20 minutes to half an hour to read, maybe. Maybe I'll bleed into the next chapter if it wasn't too long. I'm just going to quickly, before I do start that, guys, I'm going to pour myself a drink of green tea with peppermint for my own health more than anything. Not because I enjoy it. So let me just pop this laptop down. And while I'm doing that, chaos, absolute chaos right now, trying to get this laptop to balance. Give me a second. There we go. Right. Yeah. While I'm doing that, I will just check the chat, see what people are saying. I'm not going to scroll back and see what people have been saying. I'm just going to let the chat roll now and read comments as they come in. I'm just going to inch my chair back a little bit. So, Keely, if you're listening, you need to put your chair back forward when you get in the car. But there we go. Just back a little bit. Oh, never mind. I don't think I can. Something's blocking me. Yeah, it's the car seat behind me. Never mind. My child's car seat is preventing me from chilling out. But yeah, I'm just going to pour myself a drink and then we'll get reading, guys. Let's see what people are saying here. Seems like Hinduism is very much Nephilim-esque, says Nancy. Most of our New Age stuff comes from them. That's true. Yeah. A lot of the New Age do take Eastern influence, especially the Indian influence as well. That's true. Tam says green tea tastes awful. You're preaching to the choir. It does, but peppermint does make it slightly more bearable, I've found. King Fables. I got a full box of peppermint tea bags. Yeah. Is that because you've never used it? Fair enough. There were demons in Miami. Everyone was running around from them. There were over 100 cops down there. Yeah, I did. I mentioned that in my last video. If you want to go check it out. Probably a miscalculated response to a sleeper cell attack, says Jeffrey. Jeffrey, forever the realist there. Okay, that's an odd question, Principe Dia Magisfera. Hey, just a question. How did birds who make their nests on top of tall trees reproduce after the flood? What did the herbivores eat? Not discrediting your Nephilim theory. You tell me. I don't know. I mean, I guess birds can survive without trees. It's not impossible. They just make nests on the ground with debris. Wouldn't be that. There'd be plenty of debris laying around once the waters recede. You know what I mean? It wouldn't necessarily all just be sudden dry, barren desert with no life whatsoever. I'm pretty sure grass could survive a flood no problem. So I'm pretty sure the herbivores had plenty of leaves and grass to eat as well. Trees and roots do grow back. You know, I don't think a flood would necessarily have destroyed plant life and greenery. So I think the herbivores would have been just fine as well. Um, I don't care what they call themselves. It's how we know them, and it's what I call YouTube. I hate to break it to you, but I just don't care. I don't know who's breaking what to who there, Wendy, but you sound pretty passionate about it. I'm not going to lie. Join patrons so the Illuminati tube doesn't take 33%. Absolutely, it is exactly 33% as well, the cheeky buggers, honestly. Alright, guys, yeah, so I'm going to do some reading now anyway. I've got my warm green tea in my hand, and we're going to do Freemasons and the circus ritual, so bear with me. Let's turn that light off. I don't need that on. Let's turn that engine off. We don't need that in the background either. I don't need to flatten the battery, do we? And here we go. Sorry, guys. I want to bring it a bit closer. My vision isn't what it used to be. It's going in my old age. Right. The original circuses were very much a product of the late 18th century, developing alongside the pantomimes of theatre in England. These early circus prototypes were very different to the more modern iterations. involving horses running around a ring while acrobatic equestrians performed tricks on top of them. The Encyclopedia Britannica explains it as so. Quote, "It was in 1768 when Philip Astley, a former sergeant major turned trick rider, found that if he galloped in a circle while standing on his horse's back, centrifugal and centripetal forces helped him to keep his balance. It is perhaps because of this discovery that he is often credited with having invented the circus ring. But it was in fact a device that had been used for some time by trick riders. He did, however, experiment with the ring in order to determine its optimum size for both rider safety and audience sightlines. His first ring was about 62 feet or 19 meters in diameter, and he eventually adopted the more popular 42-foot, 13 diameter standard that is still used in modern circuses. Astley's show consisted only of trick riding exhibitions until 1770, when he hired a clown, Mr. Merryman, musicians and other performers for his show, in order to provide spectators a diverse entertainment. Because of these innovations, he is credited with having developed the modern circus. He eventually built a roof over his ring and added a stage for dramatic performances." End quote. Astley travelled to France in 1772 to present his daring feats of horsemanship before King Louis. And what's that? King Louis the 15th? Is that right? King Louis the 15th at Fontainebleau. Then, in 1782, he opened an amphitheatre, one of 19 permanent circuses he built during his lifetime. In Rue du Faubourg du Temple. Rue du Faubourg du Temple. I'm probably butchering that French pronunciation. I'm sorry, I'll stop there. I don't speak French, but it says here the Rue du Faubourg du Temple near the Boulevard du Crime, or Crime, where the Place de la République stands today. He left Paris in 1793 following the outbreak of the French Revolution. In 1802, the arrival of Napoleon and his empire, Astley resumed control of his Paris circus. At the same time, a former Astley employee turned rival named Charles Hughes travelled to Russia in 1773, performing for Catherine the Great and the Royal Palace at St. Petersburg. Hughes is therefore sometimes credited with having introduced the circus to Russia, though his show was only small and involved trick riding. The first Russian circus to incorporate a full complement of acts was by the Frenchman Jacques Tourneur, a first-rate equestrian who built a short-lived circus in St. Petersburg. In 1782, along with Charles Dibdin the Elder, the prolific songwriter, Freemason, and author of the pantomimes mentioned earlier, Hughes opened a rival amphitheatre and riding school in London, the Royal Circus and Equestrian Philharmonic Academy. It was here where the word circus became adopted as the standard name for such an event. That's right, Charles Dibdin the Freemason was involved with popularizing the word circus before his son turned the clown into a psychedelic monster at Sadler's Wells 18 years later. From the times of his origin in England, the circus was often represented in a theatre-like setting adapted for horse tricks. However, many of these were flimsy constructions that would be extremely prone to burning down. Astley often had this problem, as his amphitheatre burned down 3 times in the first 62 years of its history. It eventually became a standard in all European cities to have its own indoor circus, with a much more elaborate and permanent building to rival the theatres of the time. This problem of highly flammable amphitheatres would stifle the popularization of the circus in the Americas for a long time. In 1793, British equestrian John Bill Ricketts, who was a student of Hughes, who worked with Charles Dibdin the Freemason, opened the first circus in the United States, in Philadelphia. In 1797, Ricketts also established the first Canadian circus in Montreal, shortly after losing his New York circus to a fire. Ricketts returned to Philadelphia where in 1799 yet another of his circuses burned to the ground. Bankrupt and disheartened, Ricketts set sail for England in 1800. With his ship never arrived. But his ship never arrived, and his death would prevent circuses from becoming noticed in the New World for another 25 years. I don't know why there's a full stop there. Let me get rid of that. And his death would prevent circuses from becoming noticed in the New World for another 25 years. His only competition in America was the British equestrian Philip Lalson, who brought the circus to Mexico in 1802. The stationary circus was just not feasible for the North American market. Colonial expansion further west would mean the circuses would also have to adapt to a moving audience. This would bring the introduction of the circus tent, or big top, which was first used in 1825 by J. Purdy Brown. It was an innovation that became a standard component of circuses for more than a century and a half. It allowed Brown to become the first operator to travel wildly with this circus, which he did throughout Virginia in 1826, and along the banks of the Mississippi River in 1828. Brown's show would eventually offer an animal menagerie, the first in 1832 to be incorporated into a circus setting. Brown would suddenly die in 1834, along with his fervent promotional abilities, leaving the circus in relative obscurity and a novel occurrence once more for almost 4 decades, until wealthy businessmen began to pick up the mantle. Until that time, the circus maintained a fair level of success with smaller travelling shows, such as the Mount Pitt Circus, as well as those featuring the animal tamer Isaac Van Amberg, and the famous American clown, Dan Rice, famous for his Uncle Sam beard and top hat. The circus developed into a lucrative business and in some ways became a victim of its own success. The wandering art form had been taken over by impresarios, entrepreneurs, and a fair number of artful swindlers who, given the itinerant nature of the trade, thrived. By then, the artistry of Ricketts' original performance and the comfort of his amphitheatres had been supplanted by grandiose spectacles given under gigantic travelling arenas. The art form lost its stationary identity in the process and began to become a new creature. American circus had always been a relatively simple affair, entertainment for entertainment's sake, with impressive horse tricks, acrobatic feats, and some tightrope walking and juggling between those scene changes. These intermissions were performed by the adopted clown character of British pantomime. The clown's demonic, psychedelic, and colourful design, created by Charles Dibdin Jr. and popularised by Joseph Grimaldi, was now the industry standard, though we would see variations evolve into the 20th century. In 1871, former museum promoter and known charlatan Phineas Taylor Barnum, from 1810 to 1891, in association with circus entrepreneur William Cameron Coop, from 1837 to 1895, launched P.T. Barnum's Museum and Menagerie and Circus, a travelling show whose museum was part an exhibition of animal and human oddities, soon to become an integral part of the American circus. The sideshow. Let me just say that sentence again. Launched the P.T. Barnum's Museum, Menagerie and Circus, a travelling show whose museum was an exhibition of animal and human oddities, soon to become an integral part of the American circus. The sideshow. That's better. Yeah, that needs some work there. The flow is off with that sentence. I'll sort that one out. While still a young man, Barnum was very active in gambling-related businesses, but his main income came from running several lotteries. There was a movement gaining strength at the time that was strongly against gambling, so Barnum worked to fight against these people and even start the newspaper, the Herald of Freedom, in 1829. He quickly became well known for his pro-lottery editorials and attacked local Calvinist preachers by name. Barnum would lose a libel lawsuit against him in 1830. which landed him in prison for 2 months. Then Connecticut banned gambling in 1834. Left on the verge of bankruptcy without a steady supply of income, he gathered what money he had, sold his store, and moved to New York City to find his fame. In 1835, Barnum's willingness to skirt controversy and behave in potentially unethical or immoral ways was made clear. Using a loophole in anti-slave purchasing laws, he managed to lease a nearly paralyzed woman named Joyce Heth. This woman, who was nearly 80 years old, was displayed as a 161-year-old ex-nurse of George Washington. Upon her death, he charged believers in his lie to witness her autopsy for a hefty sum, using this money to begin a new show business endeavor. He started a group known as Barnum's Grand Scientific and Musical Theatre. It featured a variety of people, displays, and short musical numbers, and by 1841, he had saved enough money to purchase a museum. Throughout his time, he would build his museum into a place of strange spectacles, shows, and curiosities that would attract audiences from around the world, including a few infamous hoaxes worth mentioning here. He began by casing the body of a real mermaid, which was nothing more than a monkey's head sewn onto the body of a fish. He also claimed to have the body of a real giant unearthed by a man in New York. However, this was a fake replica, and the real body of the supposed giant was owned by a different showman who sued Barnum for stealing his limelight. The court case was thrown out by the judge due to its absurd nature. But this event was the origin of the "there's a sucker born every minute" line, a quip that was spoken by the plaintiff in this case, not by Barnum, as it is so often attributed. Barnum also discovered that a distant relative of his named Charles Sherwood Stratton was a very small person, and sought to add him to his variety show for his museum. Barnum saw that Stratton had great natural talent, so taught him how to sing, dance, mime, and impersonate. Stratton was performing many of these acts when he was no more than 4 years old. With his parents' permission, Barnum adopted Stratton and gave him the stage name of General Tom Thumb. At the age of 5, Barnum took him on a world tour and showcased him as part freak and part real entertainer. However, Stratton became the star of the show and was much beloved by all as a character throughout his career. Stratton married Lavina Warren, another small person, in 1863. In a typical questionable fashion, Barnum photographed the two of them with a baby and claimed it was theirs, even though Lavinia wasn't able to have children. These pictures were then sold to the public or used to further promote his museum. By the age of 21, Stratton joined the Freemasons, and after a 41-year career as a renowned performer, died unexpectedly of a stroke at 45. He was buried with Masonic honors by St. John's Lodge. He became Master Mason in St. John's Lodge No. 3 at Bridgeport, Connecticut on October the 8th, 1862. He received the commandery degrees Masonic Knight Templar and Hamilton Commandery No. 5, Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1863. Barnum likely introduced young Stratton to Freemasonry, as he himself was a member of the secret fraternity of the Odd Fellows, an order whose ranks housed familiar and heavy-hitting names such as Ulysses S. Grant, Charlie Chaplin, Winston Churchill, King George IV, Albert Pike, a prolific Freemason who wrote Morals and Dogma, numerous musicians, actors, lawmen, presidents, and senators throughout the centuries. Though it's said that Freemasonry and the Odd Fellows are independent of one another, they have shared many members throughout history, and their symbolism is almost identical. Though it can only ever be in the realm of speculation when discussing such a thing, I would posit a theory that the Oddfellows were created by Freemasonry to house the performers, directors, and artists of their ranks, making those members who were world leaders seem incredibly suspect in hindsight. Was that simply their latest role to play on the world stage? At the old age of 60, Barnum would make his debut into the circus platform, bringing his troupe of freaks and performers with him. In 1871, partnering with the entrepreneur William Cameron Coop, the duo launched the P.T. Barnum Museum Menagerie and Circus Traveling Show Museum. Yeah, so I've repeated myself there. I'm gonna have to get rid of this section, I think. I don't think I need to mention that he was going there with William Cooper again. And I think that can come down there. Another of Coop's innovations of that year was the addition of a second ring and a partnership with Barnum. And in partnership with Barnum, the rings continued to grow in an attempt to drive spectacle over talent. For better or worse, multiple rings and stages became another unique feature of the American circus. Bear with me 1 second, let me just get that back. Coup devised a system of daily transportation by rail for their circus. Another of Coup's innovations, sorry, I need to get this right, of that year was the addition of a second ring, and in partnership with Barnum, the rings continued to grow. Live editing in action here, guys. You're seeing the editing process in action. The proofreading, it's not very exciting, I know. In an attempt to drive spectacle over talent. For better or worse, multiple rings and stages became another unique feature of the American circus. It is also worthy of note that the three-ring circus certainly became the most popular setup for most future circuses, and it is a common phrase to describe a place of chaos and busy action. Perhaps it's no coincidence that three interlocking rings is also the primary symbol for the International Order of the Oddfellows, of to which Barnum was a proud member. Fatigued with travel and constant work, after building the New York Hippodrome, Coop retired from the business in 1874 and moved to Europe, leaving Barnum to run P.T. Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth on his own for 6 years before joining forces with a rival circus run by James Anthony Bailey. As a boy, Bailey travelled with an itinerant circus. In 1872, he became partners with James E. Cooper's circus, later called the Grand International Circus, which made a profitable 2-year tour of the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Java, and several countries of South America. From 1876, Cooper, Bailey and Co. Circus became a serious competitor of P.T. Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth. However, they soon merged their enterprises in 1881. Bailey's managerial astuteness complemented Barnum's ability as a promoter and made their circus the most successful enterprise of its kind in the United States. Indeed, Barnum and Bailey certainly didn't invent the circus, and the now established home of the Joey Clown, but they certainly played an integral role in making it what it is today. And in partnership with rival circuses of the American plains, occult symbolism became a staple part of the spectacle. After Barnum's death in 1891, the circus made several triumphant tours of Europe under Bailey's sole leadership. A year after he died in 1906, the circus was bought by the Ringling Brothers. The Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey Circus, as it eventually became known, remained in operation until 2017. I've not mentioned it here, but just a tidbit. It had to shut down due to accusations of animal cruelty in 2017, but it has announced its comeback this last year with no animals. So it is back now, actually. That information is outdated, and I will probably add that in there. Indeed, after Barnum's death, the new form established by his Oddfellows showmanship grew exponentially, as other Freemason-run circuses began to follow suit and amalgamate into one monstrous entity. The Freemasonic obsession during the era with establishing their lodges and building odes to Solomon's temple was prolific. It was the post-industrial, pre-depression era economic boom that afforded them the luxury of attempting such grandiose feats of architecture. With this parallel effort in mind, their push to turn the circus into an equally spectacular showcase of mystery school rituals and secrets is hardly surprising. Between 1892 and 1929, the circus operated by John Robinson, Barnum and Bailey, and the Ringling Brothers all offered massive circus spectaculars, reproducing the magnificence of Solomon's court. Freemasons were in control of each of these productions. John Robinson himself was a Freemason, as was P.T. Barnum, member of the Order of the Oddfellows. All 7 of the Ringling Brothers, as well as their father, were members of the Baraboo Lodge No. 34 of Baraboo, Wisconsin. The Barnum and Bailey Spectacular was designed, arranged, and produced under the personal direction of Bolossi Kiralfi, an English theatrical producer who belonged to a Masonic lodge in London. Indeed, up to 10 Brotherhood-led circuses would join forces to put on an enormous travelling show called the King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. For this production, which toured the nation, Ringling Brothers purchased their costumes from the Henderson Arms Company, a leading fraternal supply house mentioned earlier, and acquired scenic backdrops painted by Sosman and Landis, a theatrical design studio that specialized in producing Scottish Rite ritual backdrops for Masonic temples. The circus spectacle touring the country, then, was produced by Freemasons and featured characters from the Masonic ritual, garbed in costumes from a Masonic supply house and performing before backdrops created by a firm specializing in Masonic scenery. Though simply a fun day out for those who are not members of the fraternity, all these Solomonic spectaculars would have held special appeal and significance for the members of the Brotherhood. Although the uninitiated simply saw a lavish performance, Freemasons attending the pageants could visualize their esoteric ritual produced on a scale of grandeur that individual lodges could never hope to attain. The spectacles built upon the dramatized ritual of the lodge room while adding lions, elephants, camels, and dancing girls to the production, but maintained the mythic appeal central to the fraternity's conception of self. The continued veneration and summoning of the disembodied Nephilim, now symbolized by the clown, was always the purpose of modern American circuses, and this practice continued well into the 20th century, before dissipating in popularity due to the rise of modern mainstream mediums such as film and television. We can see the clown follow suit with the change in public attention, and the classical setting of the theatre and the circus was no longer the only home for the occulted symbol. So the next chapter, The Clowns of the Mystic Shrine. Quote, "It has often been written that the circus clown is a thing of the past, and that the old traditions are dying out. And of course, there is much truth to that argument. There is a new generation of clowns. Certainly fewer of them are coming out of the circus itself. Yet more and more people, both performers and non-performers, have taken an active interest in mime and circus techniques, reflecting an emphasis on the physical that has again become quite fashionable. If the traditional circus is dying, and even that might be a foolish assumption, the idea of a clown as a Renaissance man, as the ultimate actor, is still very much with us. The clown, as Leonid Yengibarov, the clown, said Leonid Yengibarov, is an artist who can do everything." End quote. The words of Townsend above ring true when one considers the role of a clown in modern society. Perhaps no greater example can be made that also aligns with this chapter's examination of secret societies and their use of the clown as an occult symbol than the Shriners and their clown sects. Shriners International, formerly known as the Ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, is an American Masonic society established in 1870 and is headquartered in Tampa, Florida. Sorry, let's say that again. I'm getting the dry mouth here. 1 second. And is headquartered in Tampa, Florida, with over 200 temples all over the world and 152 in America alone. This bizarre offshoot of Freemasonry adopted the theme of Middle Eastern iconography and Moorish architecture. The Shriners International describes itself as a fraternity based on fun, fellowship, and the Masonic principles of brotherly love, relief, and truth. But this is the usual cover story for most of these societies whose initiates are taught by degree the 7 sacred sciences in exchange for their servitude. So I'm going to expand there and explain about their belief and rooted belief in the tenets of Freemasonry and link it back to what I wrote here in the first section about Freemasonry and the veneration of Lucifer and Gnostic principles. So if you would have read this chapter first, this section first, then what I'm saying here about the Shriners would make more sense, I suppose. And perhaps I'll make here a statement explaining that and maybe go into more of the specifics of their rituals here to fill that gap. But I go on to say here, the Shrine Circus is a circus founded in Detroit, Michigan, on Woodward Avenue in 1906. It travels to roughly 120 cities per year in the United States, and a separate unit travels to about 40 in Canada. It is affiliated with the former Ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, now Shriners International. So I don't need to add that there. In Canada. Let's close that. Downtown Detroit in Wayne County, Michigan, there is a historical plaque commemorating the site of the first Shriner Circus. It was erected in 1980 by a Michigan History Division, Department of State, mark number S552C. It states, quote, near the site on February 26, 1906, some 3,000 spectators watched the nation's first shrine circus. Detroit's Muslim shrine temples one-ring show was the beginning of a major fundraising venture for shrine temples throughout the country. Sorry guys, bear with me. My phone just went off and I want to make sure that isn't my wife screaming to me. No one can hear you, you just sat in silence, you idiot. Turn on your microphone. No, it's not that message, okay? Let's just check that's not what's going on in there as well. Nope, right, good. So, yeah, carrying on. It was the beginning of the major fundraising venture for shrine temples throughout the country. In 1907, shrine temples in other cities began sponsoring circuses, and in 1925, the Shriners featured their first 3-ring show, originally operating for 1 week. Shrine circuses appear across the nation throughout the year. Clyde Beatty and his wild animals were the main attraction in Detroit from 1925 to 1965. The Nelsons, aerialists, and acrobats, and Romig's Clowns of Michigan were also featured performing during the early years in 1980's annual attendance. In the 1980s, annual attendance at Shrine Circus exceeded that of any other circus in America. Indeed, it appears the main traveling circuses of America today are run by a high-level fraternal organization called the Shriners. This is an organization that only high-ranking members of Freemasonry are afforded the permission to join. One must ask, why an order dedicated to Middle Eastern symbolic rites affiliated themselves with Western circuses and, more importantly, dressed like Western clowns? Indeed, it is well known that the Shriners regularly dress like clowns and parade down the street in tiny, checker-patterned cars dressed as clowns to fundraise for charitable organizations. I don't need dressed as clowns there again. Sorry, like I said, this is my most recent writing with no editing done yet, so this might be a bit messy. As you can see, I've only got a couple of paragraphs left here. Indeed, it appears Shriners have positioned themselves as the child-loving and caring saviors for the sick and feeble. Shriners' children. Shriners Children's Hospitals is a network of non-profit medical facilities across North America. Children and orthopedic conditions, children with orthopedic conditions, burns, spinal cord injuries, and cleft lip and palate are eligible for care and receive all services regardless of the patient's ability to pay. Care for children is usually provided until age 18, though in some cases it may be extended to age 21. There are over 25 Shriner hospitals and traveling clinics in the Americas, and regular clown visits are the norm for these facilities. On the surface, it does seem noble, doesn't it? Offering laughter to sick children in order to bring some moments of levity to an otherwise bleak existence filled with pain and uncertainty. Who would question such an organization without being considered evil and worthy of ridicule and ostracization? Well, as I've already made clear in chapter 14 of this book, the clown in its origins is far from an innocent bringer of joy, but a representation of the demonic from its very inception in the commedia dell'arte of the 15th century. And this cannot be simply ignored when one learns of the practical use of the costume of a clown, compared to ancestor spirit worship cults around the world who dress in similar fashion. The use of the costume by the Shriners for nefarious purposes will become clear as we further explore these earthly cultures and their ritualistic practices in later chapters. For now, you must simply keep in mind these secret societies and their deep connection to the circus, the clown, and ritual as you read on. Okay, so that's all I've kind of got for now with chapter 15. Like I said, a lot of it does need expanding, working on, some extra stuff needs adding here and there. It's rough draft, first draft stuff, guys, for this chapter. I'll try and have this boxed off hopefully by the end of the month so I can crack on with chapter 16 and get on with section 3, talking about all the different cultures. But again, luckily, I've made a lot of videos about all of these already, so I kind of just have to go back and say everything I've already said again. So I'm hoping these chapters should be relatively quick too, but I'm not going to rush them, obviously. So let's go back to the chat. Let's see what people are saying. I'll quickly switch back to a random slideshow showing some outfits from these ancient ritual practice cults from all over the earth. There may be the odd Shriner clown mixed in there as well as you watch through. But let's see what people are saying in the chat, guys, and let's see what's going on. Someone's birthday. Whose birthday is it? I just quickly saw there. No, I've lost it. Happy birthday, Lavender. Happy birthday to you. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. And thanks for becoming a member as well. All right, guys, I'm going to scroll back in the chat to see what's going on here. I think I'm back to where I was before I started reading. Yeah, kind of. Hall is the only creator I support monetarily, says Jeff. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's quite an honour. I appreciate that greatly. The mimes and clowns. By the way, that was a joke earlier when I sent you that meme about the flat Earth thing. I just saw what you said, and I thought it'd be funny just to send a meme in rebuttal to it. That's all that was. I was take it in jest. I'm sure you did anyway. But yeah, links. My wife posted a link there, but the link's down below in the description of this video, guys. If you wanna support the book and help me as I write this, because it does take a lot of time. Obviously, it is work. So if you want to support me while I do this, because I am self-employed, so any time spent on the book is time. It's money to me, if you understand. Please go to the GoFundMe and join in if you think there's any value there. Or if you'd like to pre-order your own signed copy as well once I've published it, I'll be sending that to you too if you follow the rules on the GoFundMe for all of that. I think I'm catching up here. Do you have a reading list posted anywhere? I don't know. All my books will be in a bibliography at the end of this for this book, so I guess I will have a large reading list for you all eventually. And look on the screen, there we have the Shrine of Clowns. Don't they just look lovely? Doesn't that little girl there look so happy that these guys decide to show up while she's dealing with a horrible spine injury? Yeah, they're definitely cheering her up, aren't they? They're doing a great job. No, it, no, that's not what the purpose is. There's something nefarious going on for sure. They could have made nests on the Ark too, don't they? Yeah, I guess they could have, Chris. That's right. So we're talking about the Miami clown thing. Yeah, people really love that thing, don't they? Talking about that right now. Again, I discussed it briefly. Part of me does feel like it's a bit of a psyop. If you want to get, saying it, the whole push to make people talk about aliens was the point of it. Whether aliens actually turned up is probably not. That probably didn't happen. It's likely there was a lot of looting going on, or something happened there, or it was all orchestrated purposely just to rile up people to get them questioning the narrative again, and to the revelation of the method stuff, get people thinking about, the Nephilim, angels, demons, aliens, all that type of stuff. I do feel like a lot of that's going to happen this year. People are going to get a lot more spiritual very quickly this year because weird, unexplainable things are going to start to be revealed to us through mainstream sources. But that's the point, guys. They're prepping you to get you ready to accept the light of Lucifer once he reveals himself to be the true God of this world. The true revelation of the method, as promoted by Helena Blavatsky, the theosophist, the Lucifer worshipping theosophist who believes Lucifer's the good God of this world, the true creator, and Adonai and Jesus are simply the corrupting gods, the negative forces to counteract the light of Lucifer, because darkness and light must exist together as one in order for there to be balance to the world, blah, 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 all a lot of nonsense. I think people need to learn that darkness is not the opposite of light. Darkness is the absence of light. It's different. It's not the same thing. Anyway, that's why I think they're pushing for the propaganda to get people thinking about these concepts, because they want people to accept the New Age religion when it comes around. And you've got to drip feed that kind of stuff to people. It's not just overnight, It's through weird events like we saw in Miami, I think. Uh, Also curious to know what you think about Tartarian old world buildings. I've heard arguments on many sides that one argument right now, which I'm humoring and postulating on, is that they are actually remnants left behind from the millennial kingdom of Christ. But at the same time, Masons, or the master builders, and those who know the seven sacred sciences and ancient principles of building, they could be remnants of a kingdom built by Satan or Lucifer himself in the past, by the builders, as they call themselves, the Masons, the builders of civilization. So they could be remnants of a darker thing, if it's not the millennial kingdom and but it is our real past. Then they were probably built by nefarious people, who maybe put the world through a reset of some kind. Sure, but it's hard to say. I am currently leaning more towards they were built during a time when mankind had their eyes on beauty and a time of peace. And I am more leaning towards that a lot of the satanic stuff was added to these buildings afterwards. Okay. Because a lot of people say, the satanic gargoyles, let's say, for example, on these beautiful buildings, and demons everywhere. And, and I think people get confused as well with what they consider satanic. Sacred geometry isn't satanic, if that's what they're referring to. Sacred geometry is just evidence for the design of the universe that secret societies learn about, because it's the building principles that they want to master. It's not good and or bad, do you get what I mean? But it can be used for nefarious purposes. All the seven sacred sciences, which were occulted by secret societies and used for their own purposes and power, they are of God originally. They've just been perverted and used for bad things. So just because buildings have sacred geometry in them doesn't mean it's satanic. I think people need to expand their minds on that a little bit more. But at the same time, I couldn't say fully what the case is with them, but they are amazing things to behold. But then the argument I've heard is, well, Lucifer poses as an angel of light. He could have easily built these beautiful buildings. Jesus' kingdom is a spiritual kingdom, not a physical one on earth. Therefore, the physical one is the counterfeit created by the devil and should not be taken seriously as anything to do with Christ, is the argument I've heard. And does it have some validity? Yes, I suppose so. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, the other argument also has validity, that Christ came down from heaven on his holy mountain in the beloved city and ruled physically on earth for 1,000 years. And people had to make pilgrimages to see him, or they wouldn't get rain. It says, and as far as I'm aware, droughts are an earthly problem. So maybe he was on Earth at the same time. I think people need to start taking that line of inquiry seriously, because it does question the mainstream narrative that they've been fed through institutions that we have learnt are heavily controlled. So we have to think about these things a bit more, a bit deeper, and we shouldn't be scared to ask questions and question our position in time. We should be allowed to do that. It's not a salvation issue as people make it out to be. It really isn't. And another argument I've heard a lot is, well, it was said in the Bible, that where's the quote? I've got it here actually. Sorry, I don't know. Probably ignorant of me to do this, but it's just something I need to quickly find. That I responded to it myself actually. Um, but was it in biblical? Was it in Bible study? Is that where it was? Yeah, so it's Second Timothy. Um, so in Second Timothy 2:18, it says, "Who have strayed concerning the truth, saying that the resurrection is already past, and they overthrow the faith of some." So we're talking there about people who've been, he's talking there about, there are people apparently saying that Jesus has come already. Don't listen to them. They're affecting the faith of people, and people throw that quote at me to say that's what I'm doing. You know, and it's wrong because it was said it was wrong here in this passage in the Bible. But then my response was, well, shouldn't we start understanding these words as meant for the people of the time who he was talking to directly, not a future people like us? We don't assume such things when we look at other historical books. We don't assume that the people who were talking in other books in history were talking about us. We assume that they were talking about the people who were next to them, who they were talking to. So why do we apply this futurist lens to what people say in the Bible? And again, if you want to use that verse against me and this theory, fair enough. I get it, but I can make that counter argument. Yes, but he was talking to the people next to him, not us. Do you get what I mean? And if we are way past it all now, that verse does not apply to us anymore in this new context. Um, yeah, and I guess that's all I want to say about that. I'll carry on with the chat. I can go on for hours. I'm going to talk about a lot of this with Shelley when I talk with her at the end of the month as well, and see what she has to say about all these concepts. But yeah, these are the usual responses I get quite often. I thought I'd just share that with you. I've got a super chat, $5. Will you be doing a guest call in anytime soon? Yeah, I can do another guest call in soon. Absolutely no problem. I'm pretty much booked this weekend. I am, like I said, I've got Lloyd de Jong coming on Friday, to talk about the Gnostic nonsense with a G, and that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then I have Mystic Mark from my Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast joining me for a truth or therapy session on Sunday evening. So it won't be this weekend. Next week, if you want, when I do this next live Q&A next week, I always squeeze one in, maybe on Wednesday or maybe probably Wednesday. I can make it a live call in if you want. Sure thing, if that's what you guys want to do. Absolutely, I'm game for that. Um, just let me know, guys, in the chat as well. Has the connection been all right throughout this whole thing? Because I'm further away from the house than I used to be, but the internet has been upgraded. So maybe this is fine now. Maybe I don't need to get closer to the house like I used to have to drive really close. To do that, I have to drive onto this weird patch of grass. And last week I got stuck in it. The car got stuck in the grass because it was raining, and it was a nightmare. I had to get the neighbours the next morning to pull me out. You know, I had to go and buy a tow rope. I had to find the tow key. It was a nightmare. But we got the car out the day after, and since then I've had to till the ground, plant new grass seeds, in the hope that the housing association around here doesn't find it and charge me to fix it. It was a nightmare. But luckily I'm currently sat just in our parking space, which is it's a good 5 meters away from the window with a bush in between, and the connection seems strong from my end here. So hopefully I've solved the problem and I no longer have to drive into weird positions to try and get a connection with you guys. Yeah, it seems good. Right. I read Revelation and it feels like Jesus is coming back like Omni-Man to smash grapes in the winepress of God's wrath. Well, when he does come back in Revelation, he does. He came to earth as meek and humble and sacrificed himself, but then he comes back as a conquering king in his second incarnate. When he comes in the clouds, um, then he comes down to earth. Yeah, it's more of a ruling with an iron rod situation the second time. From what I understand too, yes. You get both sides of him, and that's the savior. The I think the Jews originally thought he was going to come as straight away. I don't think the Jews of the day thought he would come and also save the Gentiles as well. Do you get what I mean? I don't think the Jews considered any of that originally, which is why they rejected him. But he did eventually come as the conquering ruler they thought the original Messiah was going to come as in his first incarnation. Um, from what I gathered, anyway. It's an interesting story, certainly. Um, the 1,000 years in New Jerusalem might be training for the last battle. Maybe, yeah, maybe. But I don't think in that last battle there is a battle. I think from what I've read, they surround the camp of saints, and before any shots are fired, they're utterly annihilated from fire from heaven. That's what it says. So I don't think there's much of a war, to be honest. Just a lot of words. We're arguing about the validity of the Tartarian buildings there, as per usual. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I like this school, says Lil Cash. I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah, yeah, and it's free as well. To think I got in debt. What was the point? Um, Great reading. Thanks, Paul. Yeah. So what do you guys think of the book? Was it good? Do you like what I've got so far for that chapter? I know it was a bit of dry history, I'll admit, but there's a lot of interesting Freemasonic connections all throughout the history of circuses. And obviously that was cutting in after the 1800s and going into the 1900s. That was that history. Even like I said, even prior to that, Charles Dibdin was the guy who brought the clown costume to be from India, reminiscent of Indian Rakshasa demons. And he was a Freemason, so it's been there since the beginning. And they've always had the toe in all of it. And like I said, even though the circus may have started, even though Charles Dibdin was there from the beginning and made his own amphitheatre and called it the circus, he coined the phrase circus. A Freemason coined the term circus to describe what we call the circus today. Do you get what I mean? Even though the word circus has always been around, don't get me wrong, to describe the Roman circus. The Roman circus wasn't what we have circus. It was just like a huge racetrack, the Roman circus. You know what I mean, for gladiators to do crazy stuff on with horses and chariots. But the modern circus, these equestrian shows were only called circuses modeled after the Roman name by a Freemason. Do you get what I mean? So everything about it is literally come from the craft. It's come from initiates into Freemasonry, including the image of a clown. And like I said, the American circus was literally what it is today. They hijacked it. You know what I mean? They hijacked the original horse shows, the horse circle, and turned it into a three-ringed, modelled after the Oddfellows symbol, spectacle of Masonic rituals. Like that's literally what they did, and it's Freemasonic through and through, and everything within it is a representation of their rituals, and the Nephilim are represented, demons are represented by the clown. So it's dark when you really get into it, and that's kind of what that chapter was trying to finalize the concept of. Next, I need to write about the Royal Order of the Jesters, and people in Telegram have sent me some good information on all of that, but it's hard to really find anything I can reference to talk about them other than news articles. There's no books written about them, you know what I mean? Because they're extremely secretive. Like, secret societies are one thing. The only thing we know about them is that they exist. Really. You know what I mean? That's the only thing we really know about them, is that they exist. And there's a glimpse into, they're definitely into some sort of bizarre sex trafficking stuff, though it's only hinted at and all the evidence has been buried. And naturally, knowing what these people are like, the age of those they are trafficking is also extremely suspect. So yeah, that's gonna get dark. But the Royal Order of the Jesters is a really trippy one. I'm in the last battle with the dragon. All right, John. Okay. I also believe the camp of Yar is already established here on Earth, and all encompasses led the way. I like the chapter. Can't wait to get the book, says Sam. Excellent. I appreciate that. Some people bring something out in me, then don't like it. I tell them to talk to Creator about it. He puts it in me, so don't bring it out, says All for One. Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to question where you get your information from. Keep calm and trust God. That's right. Like the tunnels. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about the tunnels today, guys. I don't know enough about that. All right. Yeah, I really don't know enough about that to say much right now. But I'm watching. Very interesting, because when I first saw the Cologne Cathedral, the first thing I thought it was evil somehow, says Christy. Fair enough. I mean, I've been to a few cathedrals, and I'm talking British cathedrals here. You know what I mean? Like, I've been to Lincoln and York. I've been to many churches in between, big churches, one in Manchester recently as well, with all of them have organs, you know what I mean? They're properly designed to be built around the organ structure in the centre, which would emit this beautiful sound and music. And even though there's a lot of religious iconography now embedded into them, I feel like they were more like, there was a more practical use to them, looking at the way they're formed and shaped, and understanding what we know about sound and frequency. I do feel like these enormous structures we call cathedrals were missing a piece about what the point of them was. I think now they're considered just places of worship today, but I think they were far more than that in the past. I think there was something else, like a community centre. I bet they were full of people all day, every day, talking and musing and everything, you know what I mean? I think they served a purpose, and I find beauty in all of it now. But I can see how even a lot of the windows have just been filled with what we call stained glass, you know, and I'm not even sure that was supposed to be there originally. I think they've been repurposed. I do get that feeling when I'm in them. Perhaps that's that evil, weird, uncanny sense you got because it's that weird feeling when you go into a place that you know that isn't being used for what it should be used for. There must be a word for that. That weird sense you get, that feeling you get, that unnerving feeling. Um, like for when that, like people talk about liminal spaces, don't they? When you see a space that should be full of people that's empty, you see like a place, like a hallway in a school at night. You know what I mean? And when there's no one, no hustle and bustle, no one opening all the lockers, no one's there anymore talking and laughing, going to class or anything like that. But when it's empty, it has that weird feeling like it's not being used for its purpose right now. That sense you get, you know what I mean? Like of that space that you're now in. I do get that feeling in cathedrals. I do. I know what you mean. It's a weird unnervingness to it. It feels a lot emptier than it should be, I think. There is a lot of empty space in a cathedral, and I'm wondering if that was always the case. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm just speculating, talking about it. The uncanny valley, the weird feeling. Yeah, things aren't as they should be. Absolutely. But I don't think that means the building's evil or designed by evil people. I don't think that's what it means. And again, exploring Tartaria channel did give a beautiful presentation trying to justify the Catholic Church basically, and what it used to be, and how it could be the remnants of the Church of Jesus when he reigned during the Millennial Kingdom. And she herself is just speculating, but she lays it out, and it starts to make a lot more sense when you actually see what the presentation with the images of all these churches that are on the earth. Because I've seen a few in England, you know what I mean, but when you actually realize what's all over the earth, it's insane the levels of architectural beauty and standards that some of these places have. It's absolutely mental, and it's like no way did horse and carriage people with ropes and pulleys somehow build any of this. It's actually insane to even consider that they would have had anywhere close to the ability of building these things with this type of technology we are told they had during that time. Not a chance. Like, and it's insulting to our intelligence that they tell us these fables and stories, you know what I mean, about how these things were built. It really is. And they make you question yourself, don't they? Well, could they have built it? And I'm starting to take more and more of a stand on this. That no, they could not as they have told us. Something happened. Like something happened that gave human beings the intense, incredible architectural ability to build fantastical structures that are just far beyond even our capabilities today. Way beyond it. Their attention to detail and their strive for artistic beauty can only be afforded in a time and place that can afford that kind of thing, and a peaceful reign where God himself walks with the people feels like the only time humanity would be afforded such an opportunity to create such things. Because we certainly don't create things like that now. Do you understand? And, the argument for the millennial reign thing, the millennial kingdom thing is that, Jesus never left the earth. He's just not reigning over us right now. He's given us over to the devil for his little season. And there must be a purpose to that, and people have speculated why. Why would God do that? And I think it has a lot to do with the resurrection of those who did not know Christ, having their chance to choose their allegiance, giving them back their free will. Because, if all the people who never knew Christ were suddenly resurrected while Christ was ruling, then there's no choice, is there? Like, there's no real choice, is there? Um, and it kind of takes away that free will element of which side do they want to be on, you know. So that's one view of what's going on there. And the theory is that they went to the North Pole, and the North Pole is a place you cannot travel to. Trust me, you cannot actually travel there. You will get shot out of the ocean or shot out of the sky if you even attempt to get anywhere near it. The North and South Poles are off limits to people like us. Okay, all the governments agree on it. Right, for good reasons, for many reasons. We're not going to get into why the South Pole, but the North Pole, you cannot go there. All right, I think MK Ryan posted something great in the group chat recently. Actually, if I see if I can quickly find it, I'll share the video with you. But something just happened there. Something just happened in the North Pole recently, which hints that there's something incredibly large right in the center of the North Pole that literally got picked up on thermal radar and shows that something weird is going on there. There's something there, okay? Not nothing. So let me just quickly share the screen with you now. I'll play the video. I'll just mute it quickly so it doesn't. Hang on. Okay, it's already muted. Yeah, let me just quickly share the screen with you. Right, so check this out. So I think it's a channel called Static in the Attic did a channel about this, but even then I think he was using, oh, what's his name? A really well-known old YouTube channel. Is it BP Earthwatch? Is that his name? I used to watch him years ago, and I stopped watching because it was always just the same stuff over and over again. But he's been around in the game for years. I think that's where he picked this up from. But if you watch this video, right, it's showing like crazy temperatures in America. Things started going weird in North America. And this is how. Oh, hang on. So, bloody adverts. So this is how the jet streams normally go. Okay, this is how they should be for the northern hemisphere on each side of the poles. But it created this. It dropped, it moved, and it created such horrible below freezing temperatures coming upon everybody. I think he talks about that at the start. Then there's this North Pole update check which happened, and they found that there was this dot here in the North Pole, which was causing this effect happening here. And it was literally affecting the jet stream. This huge solid object was preventing the winds itself from traveling over thousands of miles here over, I think this is Greenland? Yeah. I mean, this dot here right in the center of the Earth, from a northern pole perspective, had changed the jet stream. So the warm air was no longer coming here to the south over America, causing an extreme dip in temperatures while this anomaly was happening, while this thing was here. Okay. And then suddenly it snapped back, and the warm jet stream came to North America again and Canada, and therefore the temperatures kind of leveled back to normal. But that is so bizarre. Something was messing with the jet stream in the North Pole. And you look at the old world maps, don't you? So old world map of North Pole, let's say. Right, and they have the North Pole here, and they depict it with islands. To us on our modern maps, it's just ocean, right? There's nothing there. But right in the center is this black rock. Okay, again they call it the Rupus Negra, black rock. And it seems like it's not an icy tundra, it's like a warm place right in the center. And then there's this ring of ice cold that goes around it, and then the closer to the equator you get, the warmer it starts to get again. All right, and it has these 4 rivers coming out from it. And here's Greenland at the bottom again, with Iceland as well, and there's Britain poking its head out right at the bottom here, where I'm clicking, you can see here. And you got the large expanse here of Russia to the east. You know what I mean? It covers a huge patch of land. And you got the large expanse here of Canada, and Alaska. So it's a different view of the world here, isn't it? But suddenly this map shows that there is this huge mountain in the center, and then this video is showing some weird object right in the center, causing something to affect the jet stream in a very strange way, like right in the center. There it is, the dot in the middle, exactly where on this map it says this thing would be on these older maps. So you have to question these things. What's really there exactly? I know I've humoured in the past that, Santa Claus lives in the North Pole. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're naughty and nice. He's making a list. He's watching your works and he judges you and he decides whether or not you deserve stuff based on how good you were and how nice you were, or if you were naughty or nice. And if you were naughty, you're going to get punished by the evil Krampus and you'll get whipped with some sticks or something. And it's like everything about that tale is an inversion of a peaceful, loving God who saved us all, and can see all and knows exactly what's going on because he's omnipotent, who may be in the North Pole waiting for, Gog and Satan to gather his armies from the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and then they'll bring them upon the large expanse of the earth, like this huge expanse we see here of Russia and Asia, and then encircle the camp of saints, fully surround something that can be surrounded by everything from four corners of the earth. So something in the middle, perhaps, to make war with the camp of saints. Okay, that's what the Bible says. Now, this thing in the middle that they're capable of surrounding from pulling armies from four corners of the earth would be the center of the earth, would be the North Pole, as we call it. So the Bible is essentially telling you in the center is the camp of saints after the millennial reign. And that's where Satan will surround with his armies. There's a biblical foundation for what I'm saying. I'm not just making this up. All right. And the evidence is that this has been covered up, that this exists in the center of our earth, in the North Pole, is mounting higher and higher and higher as time goes on. And random anomalies like this is modern mainstream science showing us that yes, something trippy's going on in the North Pole that they're not telling us about. There's something there. Okay? So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought I'd quickly share that with you, to show that there has been some very strange anomalies happening in the North Pole, and it all connects to this. It could possibly be because that's where the camp of saints is, and Santa Claus is like an inverted, satanic, bastardized version of the true God that's in the center of the earth, the all-knowing, omnipotent God, Jesus Christ. God become flesh. There he is, ruling with the camp of saints, just waiting for that final war at the end of time before the great white throne judgment by the throne of God in heaven, after everything is wiped out, once the flames come down from heaven, no doubt. Yeah, so I don't know, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? Has anyone ever seen that before? Anyway, I don't know if you've ever seen that before. I thought I'd show you. I'm going back to the slideshow. I'm back to the chat now, guys. Again, look, I'm just pointing out things that I've seen and observed and connected. Can I say with 100% certainty that any of that's true and we're living in a little season? I can't. How can I be 100% certain of anything like that? But there are evidences to indicate that it is a huge possibility, and you cannot just ignore that. Be prepared for every eventuality, so when things do go down, you are not deceived. Okay, that's all this is. That's all this is really about. Okay, like the foundation should be solid. Read the word, read the book, believe on Jesus. Get saved. Do the works necessary to prove that you're sincere about that, like making real changes to yourself. Be charitable, actually make efforts to be loving and kind to one another as well while you're at it. You know what I mean? And be patient, be long-suffering, and stop sinning, and you'll be covered, you know what I mean? We do that work, of course. But you have to be prepared for every eventuality, because the devil roams the earth like a roaring lion, seeking whoever he may devour, and that is through ignorance. We perish through lack of knowledge at the end of the day. We need to know every possible eventuality so we're not deceived, and when whatever comes next, we can know who we are and where we are and when we are better. Okay, and the issue with this whole futurist theology, that Revelations is being unfolded now and Jesus is about to return for the 1,000-year reign, is that the people who control the earth now have the resources and the power and the media control to make it look like that is happening. So we cannot take it at face value. Do you get the problem? Do you get our issue with how deceived we are? We can't just take the media's word for it, or at face value for what the cameras have been showing us about what's going on around the world. They can manufacture events that make it look like Revelations is unfolding and tribulation is here now. They can do that. And another counter to some of the arguments I've heard is, this idea that, well, okay, we would have seen the two witnesses by now, or uh, I don't know, we would have longer lifespans now. Animals wouldn't be killing each other if that was true. Or, there's no evidence whatsoever that Jesus Christ has ever ruled on earth, which I think I've shown. Actually, there probably is, actually, if you pay attention. Like, if you redefine some of the things that are right in front of your face, you might realize the evidence has been there the entire time. It's one of those situations, isn't it? But all these arguments I get about, we didn't see this happen yet. This hasn't happened yet. We didn't see that happen yet. Whatever it is, whatever biblical event is supposed to come back past in prophecy before we see Jesus return. But my rebuttal is simply, if we are in the little season, you wouldn't know any of that has happened already in the past. It's been hidden from you. It's so far in the past, because 1,000 years has passed since then, right? That there wouldn't be any evidence of those things happening anymore. And it could easily have been buried. I mean, the Vatican has what under there? How many books and scrolls and tablets and art and everything about history do they have hidden in their vaults in the Vatican? Who knows what's written down and documented about our history in those things? Like, all the evidences could be there in those vaults for all we know. Like, they've made a large concerted effort to cover this up, and you wouldn't know the little season had happened. That's the point. When Satan takes over and convinces the earth to join him as an army of some kind to go make war with the camp of saints. I mean, what does that even mean? Like, Satan could literally deceive us and say aliens have come to attack us. They've made a base in the North Pole. Come, humanity, let's all come together as one, under one flag, united under a new world order of progress and spirituality and power. And let's fight against this unifying force from out of space that has brought us all together as one to save ourselves. You can imagine that kind of speech, can't you? You can imagine it, and that's how they would convince people to go make war with this thing in the North Pole. He'll just lie. He is the father of lies. He will spin a narrative in some way that makes it seem like what we are doing is a peaceful, loving, caring act of coming together as one to fight against a common enemy. That's what will happen. And we see agendas like that in motion, do we not? We see this idea, the programming in media of humanity coming together as one to fight against aliens. How many films have been released with that theme? They're getting you ready for that concept, because I think that's the point. He's gathering an army to make war with Jesus. But we will consider them alien to us when we witness them. When the camp of saints perhaps becomes visible again, it will look like a giant spaceship to us in the sky, probably. But it's a floating city, isn't it? I think Alpha Talks did a great presentation on floating cities. It was a really common thing in the past, apparently, likely during the millennial reign, which we have random documents kind of echoing this allusion to. You know what I mean? Like, a floating city to us would look like a mothership from space if we've been heavily programmed to believe in all that kind of stuff. Like, these things can work, and all the prophecy will have already happened thousands of years ago. So, of course, you're not going to see evidences for that anymore. But you're constantly being told it's just around the corner. It's just about to happen, guys. You know what I mean? Like, how proud must you be to not think that you may have been deceived? How many more deceptions do you have to realize and uncover that you were lied about before this one finally you realize you could have been lied about this one as well? Like, all we ever do in the truth of culture is just discover we have been lied to over and over again, and the lies get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, and it, I don't know. I'm ranting and raving. I'll stop. All right, but you have this is not unwarranted discussion. These conversations have to be had. You want to get to the truth, we have to talk about things that might make you uncomfortable. That's just the way of life. All right. Anyway, that's what people are saying in the chat. Anyway, I'm almost at the 2 hour mark. I've got about 7 minutes or so left. So let's round this up, guys. Any last question you want to get them in, please. And I'll see if I can get to you or cover it. Connection is good, excellent. I'm glad all that was probably captured then. All that ranting. What did you think of the Arctic jet stream thing, says MK Ryan. Yeah, right, so yeah, I did show you, there you go. You did mention it in the chat. Absolutely. This is the most exciting channel over old world. Cheering for you, Paul. Oh well, thank you. The funny thing is, I didn't think I would end up becoming a channel that focused on the Millennial Kingdom stuff. All right, I'm mainly an ancient mythology Nephilim guy. All right, my thing that I am predominantly have been known for is the Nephilim Looked Like Clowns theory, and that's still my thing. You know, I'm working on the next episode for that now, which is about serial killers who dress like clowns all throughout the earth and throughout history. Um, but I couldn't just leave this topic to the one side, and now I've gained thousands of subscribers just talking about this topic. I've now become the Tartarian mud flood. Perhaps it was the Millennial Kingdom instead. Have you considered this angle, guy? You know what I mean? And I keep falling into these weird talking points and subject matters that people are desperate to learn about that I never thought I'd end up ever talking about. It's just it's funny how God works, isn't it? He has a sense of humor, that's for sure. Should I be the guy talking about this? Should I be the guy people consider the most exciting channel to talk about this subject? I don't feel like it. I feel like I have a lot more to learn before I can be considered an authority in most of these things. I'm not an expert on much, other than let's say biblical history and perhaps ancient mythology and other places. Even then, I'm an advanced intermediate, I would say, not even an expert, you know. But yeah, I'm talking about these things now. What do you know? It's unavoidable. I couldn't avoid it. Um, A Shattering Delusion says, I would love to come on and live call in 2 weeks. May God bless. Sure, yeah, the more the merrier, I guess. What would you like to talk about, Shattering Delusions, if you don't mind me asking? What exactly are your points? What do you want to come on here and actually say? I'm going to have to start vetting people before I let them talk on this channel, because I have enemies. I have people who hate me, you know. I have people who just simply want to tell me I am wrong. Before even investigation, most of the time they want to tell me, no, you're an idiot, you're wrong, you're a shill. You must be a shill, leading the sheep away. You're an agent of Satan talking about this type of... I get all of that, you know, so I don't want those people getting through to phone calls. Though, no, I appreciate the donations. I think you're probably sincere there, Shattering Delusions, but I will need like a brief of what you want to talk about before you come on, just so I know where we're going first. All right, something like that. Supposedly John Wayne Gacy killed 3 men, plus he worked in politics. A Freemason POS. Yeah, absolutely. That guy was involved with all sorts of things. I think the CIA as well and the FBI. Yeah, he was well interconnected with high-paying members and the whole dressing as a clown as he murdered young men. Absolutely, all of it's connected. I'm going to talk about it in the next episode, obviously. Paul, what do you think of the Cirque du Soleil? Yeah, I will talk about them in the book as well. They're just obviously a modern rendition of a circus. But they are full of it. Every single show the Cirque du Soleil puts on is just laden with Gnostic occult symbolism through and through, and numerous representations of human animal hybrids and the Nephilim. It's unreal how hardcore they go with the Nephilim clown symbolism, and they know what they're doing. You can just tell they know, and it's called the Circus of the Sun, isn't it? I think it's French Canadian origin as well. So it has its roots again in the Americas, in Freemasonry, in all the occult stuff. And yeah, we'll be talking about that later on in the book, I think, in the more modern interpretations of circuses towards the end of the book. Absolutely. The Odes of Solomon. Have you looked at it, Paul? Yeah, I read the Odes of Solomon. I think is that the one where he basically goes through every demon and gets them to confess what they do, and then how to control them with his ring. I think I've read that book, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Um, Up for a lot. It's a very contentious book. I'll say that. Anyway, James, thanks for being here, guys. Just so you know, you've probably heard me say the phrase "it's a shelf of wonder" topic before. where there's a topic just so fantastical that you can't put it down necessarily, but you can't quite make full sense of it yet. So you put it on this thing in your mind called the shelf of wonder. And you leave it there on the shelf to stew for a little bit, and you always come back to it every now and then. But it's not one of those things you fully understand, but you can't help but check it out because it's just so fascinating. Well, James Carter is the guy who came up with that phrase and told me to use it. Well, gave me permission to use his phrase. So all to him, guys. He's the guy who did it. All right. Thanks for that, James. I do appreciate it. Thanks for being here as well. Yeah, great quote there. Our job will be complete when everything they know will be false. Brought to you by the friendly neighborhood CIA director. Absolutely. It's a famous quote, isn't it? Um, we got an Attack on Titan question there. Do you believe Attack on Titan resembles the truth? Or the Titans that resemble clowns? I didn't watch it. Well, surface level, yes, the Titans do have wide jaws, quite clownish features. It's quite clearly a reference to flesh-eating giants of the past. But the whole storyline of Attack on Titan is really complex and convoluted, and it's not quite biblical necessarily. It's actually, spoiler alert, it's caused by some kind of sea-dwelling parasite amoeba thing that attaches to the spines of people and takes control. It's like a parasite virus hybrid thing, and then it's about power families who harness the energy of this parasite to gain power and control over the earth, and it gets trippy and weird. And then this thing about founding titans, it starts to get really complicated. All right, it turns out titans are just humans who have been turned into monster. Yeah, spoiler alert. I won't ruin it all for you, but it's wild. The story is very complicated. Surface level, though, big wide grins, clown-like giants with weird funky shapes and bodies eating people. Yeah, that's roughly the Nephilim story, Surface level. With Satan being in control, we would be under the greatest deception ever of all time. People think that's still yet to come. After everyone knows the Bible is true, Satan took over long ago. If you know, you know. Yeah. The millennial topic is super interesting. Absolutely. Shelf of Wonder stuff, guys. The millennial topic is Shelf of Wonder stuff. I'm going to tell him he's wrong when I come back in. I don't know about what yet, but I'll do it, says my wife. Yes. I don't doubt for a second that you'll do that. Uh, um, but you're wrong, though, Paul. Yeah, I have no doubt for a second. Right, guys, I've hit the 2 hour mark anyway. I'm going to call this a night. I think I've gone on for long enough. I hope you enjoyed the reading of the book. And a bit of an update there for those who've donated, to where we're up to with that and how I'm progressing. Luckily now I don't have any more weddings to edit, so I have a lot more spare time for this winter season now to actually put the days I would put into editing those photos into writing instead. So I should make quite a lot of headway hopefully in the next few months on the book, just in time before I go on holiday in May. And hopefully I should be on to section 3 by that point and well into it. Fingers crossed. And hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have a final polished book which I'll be looking to publish. If publishers want to pick it up, great. If not, I will be self-publishing. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So yeah, and that's something to look forward to. If you want to help support me during creating all this, like I said, go check out the GoFundMe down below. We're still open to pre-orders, but I might start capping the pre-orders now. I think I'm almost up to 50. If I don't already have 50 pre-orders, I think I'm pretty damn close. Um, and I might have to cap it because that's going to be a really big task for me to order 50 of my own books, sign them all, and then send them to 50 different locations all over the earth, different addresses at varying costs, with different requirements and all sorts of other things. You know what I mean? So, just to lower the task at hand, I may have to start limiting pre-orders. I think I might cap it at 70 or something. But again, please go and support the book on GoFundMe if you enjoyed the reading today and you like what I do and you want to see more of that. Links down below. Consider joining Patreon, as I mentioned earlier. That really is the best way to support me. They take 5% of everything you give. That is the lowest amount you will find anywhere else. I am a founding member of Patreon, which means I joined a long time ago. So I'm on this really old plan where they only take 5% of any donation. Anyone who joins new now has to pay like 12% or 15%. YouTube take 30% of whatever you donate, and GoFundMe doesn't take much, actually. They're quite good as well. They're only a very small amount. But Patreon really is the best way to support me, guys, and make sure your money actually helps and goes straight to me and doesn't get wasted anywhere. Extra content on there to go check out if you haven't already. There's actually a podcast I did on there currently. If you want to go check that out, that isn't public. But yeah, go check out Patreon, go check out the book. I'll be back this weekend with 2 more interviews with different guests. We have Lloyd DeLong to talk about Gnosticism. We're going to break it down. We're going to get deep about the history. We're going to talk about how they think and how they operate and where they get their beliefs from exactly, and how all pervasive it is and how utterly stupid it is as well, and how it's all based on lies and ancient Gnostic. It's all lies, basically. We're gonna get to the bottom of it, and we're gonna explain why it's all nonsense as well. So that's gonna be fun. And then, of course, you can look forward to a chilled out truth or therapy session with Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast as well on Sunday. I've made a post documenting my calendar and the guests coming on this month and going into next month. So go check that out if you haven't already. I have Shelley coming on from There's No Place Like Home at the end of the month, and we're going to get really deep into this Millennial Kingdom topic as well. So that should be a fun little collaboration I'm looking forward to, guys. So thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.